The story of Turkey is not just the story of one nation. It is the story of civilizations that rose and fell, of empires that left their marks in stone, and of a land that became a bridge between East and West. When you walk through Turkey, you are not just walking through a modern country. You are stepping into thousands of years of history, carved into ruins, palaces, mosques, and cities that once ruled the world. And so our journey begins where continents meet Istanbul. Imagine standing at the edge of the Bosporus, the strait where Europe and Asia look at each other across the water. The city once known as Byzantium, later called Constantinople, and finally Istanbul, is perhaps the greatest testament to Turkey's layered past. Here, every stone has witnessed kings, sultans, and emperors. The heart of Istanbul's story begins with Hagia Sophia. Built in 537 AD by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian, it was the crown jewel of the Eastern Roman Empire. When you walk inside, the vast dome seems to float above you like the heavens themselves. Its golden mosaics, shimmering with images of Christ, saints, and emperors, once spoke of Christian glory. Then, in 1453, when the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror stormed the city, Hagia Sophia became a mosque. Minarets rose around its domes, and verses from the Quran joined the ancient mosaics. Today, it stands as one of the most iconic monuments in the world, part church, part mosque, part museum, symbolizing the crossroads of civilizations. Not far from Hagia Sophia stands the Blue Mosque, known for its 6 slender minarets and its stunning blue Iznik tiles that cover its interior. Built in the early 1600s by Sultan Ahmed I, the mosque was not just a place of prayer but a declaration of Ottoman grandeur. Step inside, and you feel the symmetry, the light filtering through hundreds of stained glass windows, the hum of centuries of devotion. But Istanbul is not just a city of mosques and churches. It was once the seat of emperors and sultans, and their palace still stands. Topkapi Palace. For nearly 400 years, it was the beating heart of the Ottoman Empire. Within its courtyards, sultans plotted wars, poets wrote verses, and artisans created wonders. The palace holds treasures beyond imagination: jewel-encrusted swords, golden thrones, sacred relics said to belong to the Prophet Muhammad. Yet beyond the riches, Topkapi tells the story of power, its allure, and its burden. The harem, where the sultan's family and concubines lived, was a world of intrigue, politics, and whispers that shaped the fate of the empire. From Istanbul, our journey moves inland, to the strange and breathtaking landscape of Cappadocia. Here, history is written not in palaces, but in stone carved by nature and human hands. The valleys of Cappadocia are filled with towering rock formations called fairy chimneys. Long ago, early Christians fled persecution and found refuge here. They carved entire underground cities, hidden labyrinths that could shelter thousands. The churches, hollowed out of the rocks, still bear frescoes painted over 1,000 years ago, saints, angels, and biblical scenes that have survived both time and empire. Standing in these silent caves, you feel the resilience of faith and the determination of people who sought refuge in the earth itself. Then there is Troy, a city that exists somewhere between myth and history. Immortalized by Homer in the Iliad, the ruins of Troy lie near the Dardanelles, where legend says Achilles fought, where Hector died defending his city, and where the Greeks tricked the Trojans with a wooden horse. Archaeologists uncovered layers upon layers of ancient cities built on the same spot, each destroyed and rebuilt, proving that Troy was not just a story, but a place where civilizations clashed for centuries. When you stand among its ruins today, looking out at the Aegean Sea, you can almost hear the echoes of bronze shields and the cries of warriors. But Troy is not the only reminder of the ancient world. Along the Aegean coast lies Ephesus, once one of the greatest cities of the ancient Greek and Roman world. Walking down its marble streets is like stepping into the past. Here stands the Grand Theater, large enough to seat 25,000 people, where actors once performed tragedies and gladiators fought for survival. Nearby are the remains of the Library of Celsus, its ornate facade still standing tall, a symbol of knowledge and culture. And once, Ephesus was home to one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, the Temple of Artemis, a massive sanctuary to the goddess of the hunt. Though only fragments remain today, the memory of its grandeur lives on, reminding us of the city's importance in the ancient world. Our journey also takes us to the natural wonder of Pamukkale, known as the Cotton Castle. Here, mineral-rich waters cascade down white terraces of limestone, creating a dreamlike landscape. But Pamukkale is not just beautiful. It is also historical. The ancient city of Hierapolis grew beside these springs, where Romans and Byzantines once came to bathe in the healing waters. Even today, you can see ancient pools filled with marble columns, where past and present meet in a surreal vision. And then, there is Mount Nemrut, a remote and haunting site in southeastern Turkey. At its summit, giant stone heads gaze out over the mountains, remnants of a lost kingdom. These statues, built in the 1st century BC by King Antiochus I, were part of a sanctuary that combined Greek and Persian gods. At sunrise or sunset, when the light casts long shadows across the broken heads, the mountain feels like a place between heaven and earth, where kings dreamed of immortality. History is not just about empires and monuments, it is also about sacrifice and memory. On the western shores of Turkey, where the Dardanelles meet the Aegean Sea, lies Gallipoli. During World War I, this narrow peninsula became the site of one of the most brutal campaigns of the war. Allied forces, including thousands of soldiers from Australia and New Zealand, tried to capture the strait, but the Ottoman army resisted fiercely. The battles were long, the losses devastating. Today, Gallipoli is a place of solemn remembrance. Cemeteries and memorials dot the landscape, honoring the soldiers who fought and died there. For Turkey, it is also the birthplace of modern pride, for it was here that a young officer named Mustafa Kemal, later known as Ataturk, the founder of modern Turkey, emerged as a national hero. Standing on these fields today, you can feel both the sorrow of war and the resilience of a nation that was reborn from its ashes. Moving south along the Mediterranean coast, we arrive in Antalya, a region blessed with golden beaches and turquoise waters, but also steeped in history. The old town, Kaleisi, is a maze of narrow streets, Ottoman houses, and ancient Roman walls. Not far from the city lies Aspendos, home to one of the best preserved Roman theaters in the world, still used for performances today. The arches, aqueducts, and ruins scattered throughout Antalya remind us that this region was once a vibrant part of the Roman Empire, where culture and commerce thrived under the Mediterranean Sunday. Traveling inland again, we reach Konya, a city of spiritual history. Konya was once the capital of the Seljuk Empire, but it is most famous as the home of Rumi, the great 13th century poet and mystic. Rumi's poetry spoke of love, unity, and the search for the divine, and his followers founded the Mevlevi order known to the world as the Whirling Dervishes. In Konya, you can visit Rumi's tomb, a place of pilgrimage for people of many faiths, where the air itself feels filled with his words. Come, whoever you are. The city, with its mosques and Seljuk architecture, carries a deep spiritual energy that still resonates across centuries. From Konya, the road takes us north to Bursa, once the first capital of the Ottoman Empire. Nestled at the foot of Mount Uludağ, Bursa is often called Green Bursa for its gardens and forests, but it is also a city of tombs, mosques, and bazaars. The Grand Mosque of Bursa, with its 20 domes and intricate calligraphy, stands as a masterpiece of early Ottoman architecture. The city is also known for its silk trade, which once made it a hub of wealth and culture. Walking through Bursa's historic markets, you feel the pulse of an empire at its dawn, when sultans dreamed of conquest and expansion. But perhaps the oldest story of all lies in Göbekli Tepe, a site that has rewritten history itself. Located in southeastern Turkey, this archaeological wonder dates back nearly 12,000 years long, before Stonehenge, before the pyramids, before cities as we know them. Massive stone pillars, carved with images of animals and symbols, stand in circles, suggesting a place of ritual and gathering. It is believed to be the world's oldest known temple, built by hunter-gatherers before agriculture even began. Göbekli Tepe challenges everything we thought we knew about human civilization, showing that belief and community may have been the first steps toward building society. As we draw closer to the modern era, we see how Turkey's historical places are not just relics of the past, but living symbols of identity. Take Istanbul again, where the Grand Bazaar still bustles with life. Built in the 15th century, it remains one of the largest covered markets in the world, with thousands of shops offering carpets, spices, gold, and souvenirs. The voices of merchants, the colors of fabrics, and the scents of Turkish coffee and sweets carry the essence of a marketplace that has thrived for centuries. And beyond the monuments and ruins, Turkey's land itself is a historical place. The mountains of eastern Anatolia, the plains of central Turkey, the shores of the Aegean and Mediterranean, all have witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, from the Hittites to the Byzantines, from the Seljuks to the Ottomans. Each left their mark, shaping the country we see today. Yet history in Turkey does not only look backward, it also looks forward. Sites like Anıtkabir, the mausoleum of Ataturk in Ankara, remind us that modern Turkey was built on the struggles and visions of its people. It stands as both a tomb and a monument, symbolizing a leader who transformed the nation from empire to republic, who gave it new life in the 20th century. In the end, Turkey's historical places are not just about stones and ruins, they are about stories. Stories of gods and kings, of soldiers and poets, of traders and mystics, of battles fought and peace sought. They are the story of humanity itself, its faith, its ambition, its resilience. When you walk through the ruins of Troy, you are stepping into myth. When you stand in Hagia Sophia, you are touching the faith of empires. When you watch the sunrise at Mount Nemrut, you are standing at the edge of eternity. Turkey is not one story, it is thousands of stories, layered one upon the other, waiting to be told. History is often told in stone, but in Turkey, it is also told in culture, in traditions that have survived across millennia. To understand Turkey's historical places, we must also understand the living heritage that flows through them. Take the city of Safranbolu, tucked into the Black Sea region, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This town is like a living museum of Ottoman life. Its cobblestone streets, timber-framed houses, and old caravanserais tell the story of trade routes that once connected Asia to Europe. Merchants carrying silk and spices stopped here, resting in the caravan inns, sharing news, goods, and stories. Walking through Safranbolu today feels like stepping into a time when travelers shaped the rhythm of the world, and the houses stand as guardians of a way of life that has endured through centuries. Further east, we find Ani, the city of 1,001 churches. Once a bustling Armenian capital along the Silk Road, Ani now lies in haunting ruins near the Turkish-Armenian border. Its grand cathedral, city walls, and scattered churches whisper of a time when Ani was a center of culture, trade, and faith. Standing amid its silent stones, with the wind sweeping across the plains, you can feel the melancholy of lost glory of a city that was once called the City of 40 Gates and is now remembered as a ghost city of history. Traveling south, we reach the land of the Hittites, Hattusa, the capital of one of the earliest great empires. Dating back to the 2nd millennium BC, Hattusa was a city of walls, temples, and fortresses, where kings once commanded armies and signed treaties with Egypt that still survive in clay tablets. The Great Lion Gate and King's Gate still stand, remnants of a civilization that flourished thousands of years before Rome. To walk through Hattusa is to walk into the dawn of history itself, when writing, law, and diplomacy were just beginning to shape the world. And then, there is the spirit of the Aegean, where ruins meet beauty in harmony. Along the coast lies Pergamon, an ancient Greek city that rose to prominence in the Hellenistic era. Pergamon was famed for its library, rivaling even Alexandria, and for its steep theater built into a hillside, offering breathtaking views over the valley below. The city was also home to the Asclepion, one of the great healing centers of the ancient world, where patients sought cures through rituals, baths, and even dream therapy. Pergamon reminds us that history is not just about wars and rulers, but also about knowledge, healing, and the pursuit of wisdom. Turkey's historical places are not only about ancient civilizations, they are also about the crossroads of religions. In Antakya, ancient Antioch, Christianity spread in its earliest days. It was here that followers of Jesus were first called Christians. Ancient churches, caves used for worship, and mosaics tell the story of a faith that began small but spread across the world. Likewise, in Sanliurfa, known as the City of Prophets, tradition holds that Abraham was born. The city's sacred pool of fish and its historic mosques make it a place of pilgrimage for Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike, binding faith to geography in a way that transcends centuries. Everywhere in Turkey, history is not frozen, it breathes. The call to prayer, echoing from ancient minarets, the songs of street musicians in old bazaars, the lingering recipes passed down in kitchens, all are living testaments to the cultures that built these places. When you sip tea in a centuries-old caravanserai, when you watch the whirling dervishes perform their meditative dance, when you see children playing among the ruins of amphitheaters, you realize that history here is not past, it is present. But what ties all of these places together is Turkey's role as a bridge between Asia and Europe, between East and West, between the ancient and the modern. For thousands of years, armies marched across its lands, traders sailed its seas, and pilgrims journeyed through its mountains. Each left their footprints, and each added a new layer to the story. And as we come to the close of our journey, we return once more to Istanbul, the city that embodies it all. At night, when the Bosporus glitters with lights, when ferries glide across the water carrying people from one continent to another, you feel the weight of history around you. The domes of Hagia Sophia, the spires of the Blue Mosque, the walls of the old city, they are not relics, they are reminders. Reminders that history is not gone, it is here, living alongside us, guiding us, reminding us who we are. Turkey is more than a country. It is a story, one written in stone and water, in faith and empire, in triumph and tragedy. From the ruins of Troy to the terraces of Pamukkale, from the mountains of Nemrut to the palaces of Istanbul, every place whispers its tale. And together, they tell us that history is not just something we study, it is something we walk through, something we touch, something we live. When you journey through Turkey's historical places, you are not just seeing ruins, you are hearing the voices of ancestors, feeling the weight of empires, and standing at the very heart of civilization itself. The story of Turkey is not only carved in the stones of ruins, it is also written in the spirit of its people. And perhaps this is what makes its historical places so powerful. They are not silent. They speak. They live. They breathe. When you stand at the ruins of Göbekli Tepe, you are staring into the dawn of humanity, when people first gathered in circles to worship. When you walk through Ephesus, you hear the footsteps of Romans echoing on marble streets. When you bow your head inside Hagia Sophia, you feel both Christian hymns and Islamic prayers lingering in the air. When you look upon the colossal heads of Mount Nemrut, you sense the ambition of a king who wanted to reach the heavens. But Turkey's story is not only about what was lost, it is also about what was built. From the Seljuks who raised mosques and caravanserais across Anatolia, to the Ottomans who built one of the most enduring empires in history, to the republic founded by Ataturk that still thrives today, every era has left its mark. These places are not ruins in isolation. They are pieces of a mosaic, each one necessary to understand the whole. And what is the whole? It is a land that has always stood at the center of the human journey. The first farmers, the first temples, the first cities, they all appeared here. The world's great faiths all touched this soil. The greatest empires of East and West met, clashed, and merged here. It is no coincidence that Turkey is called a crossroads, because it truly is the meeting point of humanity. Today, millions of travelers from around the world come to Turkey, not only for its beauty, but for its history. They climb the steps of ancient theaters, wander through Ottoman bazaars, float over Cappadocia in hot air balloons, bathe in the warm pools of Pamukkale, and stand in silent awe at Gallipoli. In doing so, they are not just tourists. They are participants in the great continuum of history, adding their presence to places that have already seen thousands of years. And so, as we close our journey across Turkey's historical places, let us return one last time to the Bosporus, where continents meet. The waters shimmer as they always have, carrying ships from east to west, from past to present. The city's skyline glows with minarets and domes, testaments to faith and empire, endurance and change. Here, history never ends. It flows, like the strait itself, always moving, always connecting. Turkey is not just a place on the map. It is a living archive of human civilization. To walk through its lands is to walk through time itself. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson its historical places teach us. That while empires rise and fall, while kings and sultans come and go, what endures is the story of humanity, written across stones, seas, and skies. A story that began thousands of years ago, and a story that is still being written today. If this journey through Turkey's timeless history inspired you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, so we can continue exploring the world's greatest historical places together, one story at a time.